اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد.
Okay, Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, bi rahmatika arhamar rahimin. So inshallah we'll begin in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we send our blessings and salutations upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and we also thank the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala ajma'een. And as I always say in my speeches, if it wasn't for the Sahaba, me and you wouldn't have enjoyed the religion the way we do. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to follow their examples and to follow them so that we could be successful. Now, while they were putting this flag on, I saw some hesitancy. Now understand, brothers, this flag does not belong to any organization. This flag actually belongs to Palestinians. So you should own that flag. So don't go by the narrative what the media imports and exports to you. So don't think when you show this flag you don't have any right. Why? Because you're supporting a particular organization or that organization or this organization. This flag actually represents the people of Palestine. And this flag has been there even before any organization actually came there. So this is their flag. This is something that they stood for. So if you're not going to be standing up for this, then what are you going to stand up for? So inshallah, don't be hesitant. You don't live in UK. There's no Suella Braverman over here, which she openly says that if anyone displays the Palestinian flag, then they should be jailed. I mean, I would like to ask a question to Suella Braverman. If it wasn't for the migration, that you wouldn't be in UK today, and what you've been doing is on the back of that migration. It's ironic that how much the migrants actually hate the other migrants. So if come down, they're doing the job for the people, for the Anglo-Saxons, as we say, or the white people. And we're doing their job even after knowing where we came from. So inshallah, I want to actually speak about some of the comments. I have some questions that have already given to me. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I like simple language. I'm not going to make this speech difficult or gibberish. I will say as it is, what's happening. And I want to actually call out the double standards as well. Now, when we call out the double standards, we need to know this narrative of double standards is not something that was made today, or this is not something that was made yesterday. This is something that Quran mentioned. I've spoken that about in my recent speeches, where it's a conversation between Fir'aun and Musa alayhi salam. And Musa alayhi salam, when he gets there, he's actually asking Fir'aun that believe in one God, and he's inviting him. Now Fir'aun actually wants to change the narrative, and he says to him, aren't you the one who actually murdered someone and ran away? And subhanallah, the narrative is that, aren't you the ones who killed 1,400 people? That's the narrative. And what happens is they completely forgot what happened before that. And subhanallah, if you look at Islam actually never shies away from anything. And even in that, Musa clearly says, وَأَنَا مِنَ الضَّالِّينَ, that he says, I was the one who was misguided. Yes, I am accepting that I killed someone, but then where is your condemnation? that you have been killing children of Bani Israel? Where's your condemnation where you've actually put the entire Bani Israel under occupation? Where is your condemnation for being the God for Bani Israel that they never chose? And that's exactly what's happening today. I've been asked a question, and I want to go with my talk inside this question, that we are talking to a lot of people outside. Now, brothers and children, I mean, you're children to me, because as you know, if I was to live any more years, then I'll be older than the king. So, having said that, one of the things that you need to know when you're speaking to the Muslims and you're speaking to the Muslim children, the narrative's very simple. You need to speak about hope. We need a lot of hope, and that's what we need. When you look around the entire world where people, their blood's dried up, and I mean it, when I say the blood's dried up, the Muslim nations at this point in time who had power, who had money, who had everything, but they've got nothing, they do not stand up for anyone. And they are just doing empty rhetoric and the talks that they're doing. So my job and your job, which is very simple, is to tell our Muslim brothers about hope. One of the lessons that we learn from the entire seerah. When we win, what happens? We become humble. That's a lesson for all of us. When you are victorious in anything in your life, you become humble. Why? Because you know that the victory comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then when you lose, you actually don't become despondent. And this is the message that Allah gave to the entire people on the day of Uhud. 70 Sahabas are dead. That's not like, well, if 70,000 people died today, they would not be making up those 70 people that died on that day. These are special people. That one of those people would make hundreds of us. That's how special they were. And the likes of Hamza and everyone. And that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَوْلَوْنَ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly is telling you that don't be, that tahinu, the word actually does not mean, it means that don't give up. It really means that don't give up. Now is not the time to lie down. Now is not the time to hide. Now is not the time to actually put your head in the ground. Now is the time to stand up. Now is the time to keep moving. Now is a time to show who you are and what you stand for. And then Allah says, وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. And now, don't be despondent. Okay, don't be sad. Don't be depressed. Why? Because what's happened is what Allah wanted. And it's everything that happens in this world is from the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing happens if Allah actually does not will that. It's the will of Allah what happened. And don't be sad, don't be depressed, don't let that pull you back. If you do that, if you keep on moving, Allah will make you victorious. That's the message that we should be giving all the Muslims, regardless of who they are. Now the second thing which someone asked me, how do we engage with the people who are not Muslims? Now is the time where you start reading your history now. Now is the time you go back to your narrative. You know, see this principle of condemnation. Now I want to tell you how this works. When they tell you to condemn, they want to dehumanize you. When they tell you to condemn, they want to go and take the life of the 6-year-old and justify that. When they tell you to condemn, that they are telling you that you all are part of this and you all are evil and you should be collectively condemning, and we have all the right in this world to collectively go and kill you. That's what they want. When was the last time I asked you that you had your leaders condemning the killing of 52 people that happened in Christchurch? And that was an Australian, and someone that came from this country. When was the last time your neighbor came out, I condemn, because he was Australian, I condemn his action. I tell you what, if someone fell on their face outside this musalla, they'll come and ask you to condemn that. Condemn the road which is outside the masjid. Why? Because that's the Muslim road, while every other warehouse over here is non-Muslim, but the guy only fell in front of the Muslim road, so you all have to condemn that. That's the mentality that we're dealing with. No matter if someone died somewhere, and he died somewhere in Nigeria, and he happened to be killed by someone who was Muslim, they will ask you, do you condemn that? I don't even know who that guy was. Why do I have to condemn everything? So this is this is what they want to do. They want to actually dehumanize you, and don't fall for this condemnation. You need to bring the rhetoric back. I actually had a list of things which I probably forgot at home, but I will still quote people, but I'll paraphrase. So I wrote a really long list of people. One of the presenters, if you know me, I moved here in 2008, and I never had a good taste of the Australian news, and I still don't listen to that. I still am invested in UK, and I still listen to the news over there, and I know what's happening over there as if it was happening in our streets. So there's a lady, Nikki Fogarty. Nikki Fogarty is on LBC. And Nikki Fogarty, it's a really good interview for you guys to listen to as well. She's asking an artist, a Palestinian artist, and she's asking him about, condemnation and along the lines of that. His name is Samir Escada. Samir Escada is the Palestinian artist who's on that channel. So basically, she goes in, I've heard, and the tears of crocodile, I'll tell you that. I am really worried about the children over there and the whole narrative of the women dying, of the children dying. But what do you say about the 7th of October? About the 1,400 people that died? He gave a really good answer. He said, if you want to look at a conflict, you need to go to the root of that conflict. She said, what do you mean? She says, let's go back 75 years and let's talk about what's been happening to these people. Do you condemn, he says then, do you condemn the killing of the apartheid and the occupation of apartheid and the killing and the bombing of hospitals, of schools? Do you condemn that? And then the lady just tries to stare the question, and she brings it back. I feel for the mothers. She's like, don't you feel for the mothers? Don't you feel for the children that die? And the man's a very smart man. He's like, don't you feel for the children who have died for the last 75 years? Don't you feel for the mothers who have died for the last 75 years? Don't you feel for the disabled, where Israel has given them only 24 hours to move to go down to the north of Gaza? Don't you feel for the children, for the pregnant women that cannot move from those hospitals? Don't you feel for them that the bomb's going to come and hit them? So that narrative is subhanallah, when they say the world's on their side, the world's not on their side. Now the world is becoming more and more actively participating and knowing what's happening over there. I mean, it's not hidden from what's been happening over there. You all know that. And understand, children, I mean it. No matter how much they kill, we're never going to die. I mean it. Why do I say that? We were only 300 on the day of Badr, and they came to destroy us. We're still here. It's 1,500 years ago. They came to annihilate us on the day of Uhud. We're still here. We're still here. They came on the day of Khaybar with 10,000 strong army, where there was munafiqun 1,000 and 2,000 of the Muslim. And Surah Ahzab mentions clearly what the munafiqun said when they looked at the army. He said, this man's only deluding you. Who? Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And when the Muslims, the mu'minun, when they looked at that, they said, Sadaqallahu wa rasuluh. That we believe in what? Now we see the truth of Rasulullah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Looking at the army, the 10,000 strong people, they're saying we can see the truth now. Also, why did this conversation start? It's from the hadith, the boulder, which you all know. When he hit the boulder the first time, he said, we are seeing the palaces of Yemen that you will be in. And then what did he say after that? He said, I am seeing, in the second spark, he said, when the spark came out, he said, Allahu Akbar. He said, I see that all of you will be also taking over the palaces of Byzantine. And then the third spark came out. He said, I see you taking over the white palace of the superpower of the time, the Persians. And subhanallah, if you look at that, Muslims were the weakest. We did not die. We came back. How many people that they have killed in Palestine? You know, they wiped out the entire generations. We're still there. How many people did they kill in Rohingya, in Burma? We're still there. How many people did they kill on a daily basis in Kashmir? We're still there. How many people are they killing in China on a daily basis? We're still there. How many people the Muslims are killing of the Muslims in the region of Syria and those borders? We're still there. We are not going to go away. It's their delusion that we're going to go away. They're deluded if they think in a way that we're going to go away. And subhanallah, this headline for a Daily Telegraph, that we're not going to go away, will actually can put me on the first page of the newspaper. I could be hit in one day. I could be so famous that this imam inciting hatred in the masjid and saying that we're not going to die. And we're not going to go away. That's what media does. That's what the media bias is. They use your words and they put that in your mouth. So understand, children, don't be despondent whatsoever. We are not going anywhere. We have been promised Jannah and we have been promised this world. That we are going to come. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that you will be taking over this entire world when Isa alayhi salam comes. So we've been already promised all of that. So we're not going anywhere. So don't feel bad when you look at the media and what the media does to you. I want to actually give you another analogy for you to understand. And then I inshallah want to actually take a bit more time, because don't trust the imams when they say they're only going to speak for half an hour. They never do that. So don't trust them, okay? And so don't trust me as well. So I want to actually give you another analogy. I want all of you to think this. Think, okay? Think of the current situation. You think there's no help, okay? No help. Think Abu Bakr is there. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is dead. And he's lying over there. The tribes which are outside Medina, they all are threatening to retaliate. Only 3 cities in the entire Arabia, they said they will stand up with the Muslims. Medina, Mecca and Ta'if. That's it. There's no other people, no other people. Everyone's worried. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he stands up. And then he says that we are going to fight all of them. And subhanallah, Umar ibn al-Khattab, that you know of, the most powerful man, he comes to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and he says, this is not the time. That's not the time to fight. And subhanallah, he says to him, Anta Jabbaru, Anta Jabbar min al-Jahiliyyah, that you used to be Jabbar from Jahiliyyah, wa anta Jubban min al-Islam, then now you become a coward, that you cannot go and fight them. You know what he said? He said, I will go and fight all of them alone, and I don't care if there's no Muslim there. And that's the stand that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq took on that day that you see Islam today. Anas ibn Malik said it was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq that gave us courage on that day and gave us that courage that we had lost. So I tell you, you know what? Don't worry. Allah will send their help. You know, the Imam actually made the dua of the Ababil. You know, you heard the dua, that one of the du'as that he made about the birds, that will become so weak that we're asking Allah to send the birds. SubhanAllah, how many are we? 2 billion, we brag. 2 billion. 2 billion people, and none of them are ready to stand up for the cause and the plight of the other brother. Why? You know the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned this hadith many times. The time will come that the enemies will call the Muslims, or sorry, they call the other enemies onto the Muslims as if they call each other to have food from the platter. I'm not going to go in the entire hadith, you all know the hadith. Now I want to tell you, why did the ulama actually said, why did Rasulullah gave the analogy of food in the entire hadith? You know why? You all had barbecue just now. Did any chicken come and fight you? That's the question I'm asking. Was any chicken retaliating? No, because Rasulullah said, food does not retaliate. Muslims will become like that. You're not going to be able to retaliate. You can do whatever you like with that. And that's why people will call upon you. Because you'll be like that food, but have no power whatsoever. And then he also says, that you're going to be as if the dirt, the rubbish on the water. Because he said, بَلْ أَنْتُمْ كَثِيرٌ, that you're going to be a lot. So that you're going to be a small in number. You'll be 2 billion in number. But why? Because you're going to have no weight whatsoever. And so, understand, you need to know who are the ones with these narratives. You need to know that the people that we supported, and we are, you know, and we take, I take complete responsibility. And I say that on the minbar. Annex job is not a political job, and we've suffered by going in that political arena and then calling out people to vote for this and to vote for that. Annex job is a job of da'i. Being imams, our job is to do da'wah and to guide people and to tell them what's right and what's wrong. So we also take responsibility to move away from that rhetoric, and we want to win the community back by doing what we should be doing and what we should be promoting as well. And on that note, I mean, these are the guys that we promoted. Albanese, you know, these are the guys that we promoted. You all know me, you know my stance. If you come to the masjid, I'm never a Labour supporter. Even when the New South Wales election was happening, it's on my recordings. You can go to my channel, and that way you can also subscribe. I can see a lot of people, you may not be subscribed. It's called Covenant of Faith. So, having said that, I said this Chris Minns is not going to stand for you. And you know what? He didn't stand for you. He was the one who gave the orders to lighten the colours of Opera House with whatever he wanted to do. As the same guy who said these protests were illegal. The same guy, as no one else. I mean, there's the same guy, you can actually read the newspaper. And then likewise, you know, what's the funny thing? Some people go out even pledging their allegiance, like Keir Starmer. Do you guys know Keir Starmer? You probably don't know. He's a Labour opposition leader in UK. You know what he said? What's so funny? The most funniest moment was, he said, Israel, she has got every right to defend herself. And I was so amazed that when did Israel become a female? When was the last time you read and a country was a female? Now, Keir Starmer just wanted to show that Israel is going through a difficult time, and it's a female, it's a woman right now, and they're wearing bangles and jewelry, and so they can't fight for themselves. So she's got every right. This is exactly his words. She has got every right to defend herself. And what's so funny about Keir Starmer, and Keir Starmer actually is a human rights lawyer. And he said they've got every right to defend themselves, and even if it means to cut the fuel, to cut electricity, and to cut water. That's what Keir Starmer is, a human rights lawyer. Why did he say that? Because his wife's a Jewish lady. Well, sometimes, you want to live in the house as well. I want to give him that. Or be probably on the streets if he did not say she's got every right. Maybe he was thinking about his wife when he said Israel, she has got every right to defend herself. So this is the rhetoric. And subhanAllah, you've been listening to these, watching these memes. Biden says we stand up for Israel. My question to Biden, learn to stand up for yourself. Every time I've watched Biden, he keeps on falling on his face. I mean, it's a very, don't think I'm joking over here, but it's a very polite advice to Biden. Learn to stand up for yourself first, and then you go stand with anyone else. And subhanAllah, these people, they make me laugh. And there is another tyrant. I want you to look upon this, another tyrant, Zippy Hatavali. Zippy Hatavali is the ambassador of Israel in UK. I don't know about the ambassador. As I said, I'm more invested in UK than I am in Australia for some reason. I've always been like that. So Zippy Hatavali actually said very recently, she called the people of Palestine living in Gaza Nazis. And she called for a genocide. And then when the LBC lady tried to challenge her, she said, don't you see the 1,400 children and the women and the likes of them, they were killed, and the 40 children that were beheaded. These people, they live on propaganda. That's just propaganda. You all know that. You all know that was a propaganda. No 40 children were severed. No one was. And on the propaganda of raping, subhanAllah, you say the news that's coming from Gaza is not right. But do you want us to believe that comes from Israel is right? On one end, you say not to believe that, but then you say it's okay to believe this. I am still in disbelief, and I'm being very honest that I don't believe 1,400 people died. I'm actually saying, yes, people died. But the number that we got, who actually got to the other side and he counted that? That's my question. Which media, when we say 3,000, oh no, that's just an exaggerated number. You all know, sitting over here, the population of Gaza in the world, 50% of the people are children. 50%. So every time when you kill 500 people in that hospital, that meant 167 or 8 children. I'm making 1/3. I'm not even saying 50%. I'm saying 1/3 were actually children. You are banging on the drum for 40 children, which I am not saying, yes, they died. Yes, we are feeling bad for them. But you're not banging on the door or the drum for the 169 children that died in the hospital. I am not even opening the door for the rubble, for the buildings that are being flattened. I'm only speaking about the hospital over here. Where is the media crying for the children that are buried under the rubble? Where's the media now? Or the media, that's why the media has got this silent treatment for one and silent treatment for the other. And subhanAllah, they've all rushed, they've gone to the synagogues, all these leaders, and we stand for Israel. Do you know what? While I speak to you, Israel has actually gone, America, Biden's gone back. Biden's pledged $70 billion for Ukraine and for Israel. 60 billion for Ukraine and 10 billion for Israel. Why? To kill the innocent. No infrastructure was lost. And then he also said that we are pledging 100 million for Gaza. You give 1 billion, you give 10 billion over there where nothing was lost. And then you only give them 100 million. And subhanAllah, the disparity is all over. You know, I don't want to take more time, but I want to give you 4 advices on what we can do. The first advice, I know you young people, I have a stance, I'm not going to shy away. You can call me a stooge, you can call me whatever. I don't believe in protest. Okay? I don't believe in protest. I've been very vocal, I've always said that. But do I stop people from that? No, I don't. And you young people, you go to these protests, I've got no problems. I've got a fundamental problem with these protests. What these protests turn into concerts and singings and dancing and free mixing. And I don't believe there are some elements of the people, some people should not be there, who are in a community in a different place. But as you youngsters being there, that's a way of the West, because West actually is scared of protest. So I encourage you, for any protest which is peaceful, which allows you to actually peacefully protest. Also understand, children, we do not go by the rhetoric of gassing someone or gassing this, and this is not our rhetoric. Also understand that we're not against the Jewish religion. We are not against that. Okay, let's make that very clear over here. We're not against the Jewish religion. We're not against the Jewish people. We're against the Nazis. You know, that's the language they use for us. So we're going to use the same language for them. The Nazi Zionists that were actually created by the Nazis. You know what? I'm going to make it. There's little children. Actually, don't. I'm going to say it. UK is a father. I call it the father. And UK has many bastard children. One of the bastard children is Australia. And it stands up with other bastard children. The other bastard child is America. It also stands up with other bastard children. And the biggest of them, the last one that was born out of illegitimacy, was Israel. When you look around, all the illegitimate children of UK, the father and all these children, they all support each other. The narrative of Australia has always been in support of Israel. The narrative of America has always been in support of Israel. The narrative of Canada, which is also another birth child, illegitimate child of UK, has also been in support of Israel. And the narrative, and who was the one who actually created this? You all know Balfour. You, mashallah, all literate, university going children. I don't have to go to that history. You know, when they ask you to condemn, you ask them to, you say, you know what, I will condemn with my whole heart. I condemn on the media, but I want you to condemn, you get the numbers right, I want you to condemn the killing of those million children and women and everything, and they call it the way it is, because that's the narrative they use. You know, your Peter Dutton in the parliament, he's calling all of us that we are scared of the Islamist jihadist ideology. What does it mean? Are we all people carrying machine guns and machetes and walking in the street? You know, subhanAllah, that was the narrative of Tony Blair. I don't even know that guy's name. What was the prime minister before Malcolm Turnbull? Tony Abbott, yeah. So it's, you know, as a Muslim, we should not remember the shaitan. Why? We should remember good things. Because if you remember good things, you'll be doing more good actions. But if you remember shaitan all the time, you try to follow their actions as well. So yeah, anyways, well, Tony Abbott, I didn't call you shaitan. That was just an analogy. So Tony Abbott, this is his words. I want actually you to look it up. I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have the exact words. He said, if you see a person in a particular dress with a beard, it is very likely he'll be carrying a knife. So imagine if I'm walking outside, next time I go to Woolworths, Everyone's going to think, oh, I've got a machete. I've got too many pockets here. So they might think I've got a machete or something. I do have a machete, the Muslim one. That one's for the camera. So this is the idea. That's the idea that they promote. And this is what they're doing. And this is what they want to bring upon you. They want to criminalize you. They want to dehumanize you. Because why? When someone takes your life, it's okay. Why? Because you are not even a human. So children, you're grown up in this country. You speak English as your bread and butter. So don't be scared of these people. It's your job. That's my second point. It's your job to educate the wider community. Talk to your neighbor. Talk to people. Talk to the people that you know, that what's happening. You know, what's happening. SubhanAllah, if you're going to talk and push your narrative on this side, they will know. The whole world knows what's happening now. Call it the way it is. Start with your communication. Apartheid. Occupier. Nazi. Killing people. You know, say blood mongers. The blood mongers of not just Muslims, the Christian Palestinians who actually live over there. That's who they are. Call them what they are. And these are the Zionists. Again, we're making distinction. We're not here to, you know, talk about the entire Jewish community. No, we do not say, and we will never say that. We say that there are there's a large number of Jewish community that lives in New York that stands by us. Those Hasidic Jews that have come out in protest and they've said, they've called out the Zionist state. Do you know what? Israel was never inspired. People, the Jews say that we would never, no, we never inspire for state. We live in peace with other people. That's the Zionist agenda, to get a state and to kill other people on the back of that state. So that's third thing, and this is for all of you. Educate yourself. We are to blame. Everyone. Not you guys, your parents. That we were too busy in making you doctors, engineers. We didn't give you the basic, fundamental Islamic education. We never gave you Islam. How Islam should be. How you should be teaching Islam. How you should be preaching Islam. We were too worried about you people to have the best of the jobs and to have the best of the lives. And then we did not care. So parents, our job, raise your children. Tell them about these causes. Palestinian, I always say that. I am not scared of anyone when it comes to this cause, regardless of what people say. I have said always, Palestine is not our Arab cause. It's not a national cause. It's a Muslim cause. Why? Because your God and my God, Allah, the one that we believe in, mentioned Aqsa and this region in the Quran for me and you to know that this was our first Qibla. So that's not the cause of this guy or that guy or the one that wears the scarf. No, it's a cause for us. And that's what it is. The hadith clearly says Muslims are like a body. If one part of that body hurts, the entire body hurts. Look at you guys, you've all come out, you've been tired, you've come to listen to my boring talk. Why? Because you're hurt. But what's happening around the world? So yes, you know, we stand up for that. Also, one of the most important things, and I'll put it last, is dua. Do not give up on dua. The dua of Allah will be heard, and when that is heard, every tyrant had his day. Pharaoh had his day. He had his day. Abu Jahl had his day. Every tyrant that's walked on this earth, their days were numbered. Allah gave them power, Allah deluded them. And when their delusion reached the peak, that's when Allah actually destroyed them. So these tyrants, their days are numbered as well. Don't worry if no one comes out to say MBS or this or that. They don't want to say anything. Don't worry about them. You know what? Their days are numbered. Allah's army will come, and Allah has the you know, the army of Allah that no one knows, that will come and they will actually help us, because we're weak people. And this is one of the things. Also, as you know, sometimes some protest really works. Al Jazeera actually put an article out about McDonald's in the Middle East. There was a complete boycott, and the orders and the business was going down. So Middle East and African McDonald's came out, and Oman's McDonald's gave a statement: we pledged 3 million for the people of Gaza. And they also put a statement out that we stand with the people of Gaza. That's in Oman. And also other McDonald's. This is what happens. Children, money talks. If you stop eating Big Mac, you're not going to die. But guess what? McDonald's will die. If you stop drinking their coffee, you're not going to die, but McDonald's will die. And if you don't have that fillet of fish, you're not going to die, but McDonald's will die. So we have power of making things work, and they could be done in many, many ways. So write to your local members, the Chris Min that you voted for, Labour Party that you voted for, write them. Tell them, I gave you my vote. When are you going to speak up for me? Well, next time, if you're not, then your history. Because there are other parties over here. You'd be very amazed. In Australia, the only people that spoke about, but they stand with Palestinians, were the Greens. That's the only people. They're the ones. Do you know what? This is so funny. I'm going to actually speak from, and this is my last thing, and I'll finish over here. Trust me, this is my last thing. We'll open it for the questions. The Parliament just recently had, in the Parliament, voted for a motion to condemn the crimes of Israel. Okay? Do you know who is the most regular person? Tony Burke. You all know Tony Burke? You all know him. He's a Labour Party member. He's very regular. He's in every iftar, mashallah, as if he's fasting. He sits on the table that he's about to break his fast. And that's Tony Burke. And there's another one which is really vocal as well. That's Mr. Clare. So these are the two people. They're the MPs. And they're always, you name it, they stand with the Muslim cause, they're in the masjid, they come for du'as, Mr. Clare and Tony Burke. Do you know who voted no? Tony Burke was the one who actually voted no. That we should not condemn Israel. Do you know who voted no? Mr. Clare was the other person who actually voted no. Do you know there was only 6 people that voted yes, and they were all Greens. Does that mean I'm going to vote for the Greens? No, I'm not. And this is one more thing. SubhanAllah, I just remembered this. The people that are speaking for Palestine, you know what? Thank them on social media. Put a hashtag for them. It's okay. You know, there are so many, I'm not saying that you come and thank me that I've spoken about. Many times imams and everyone, they speak about particular issues. But they don't hear the thank from the other side. And they hear that people are always criticizing them. So I'm telling you, these people who are standing up for your cause and are speaking, hashtag them. Talk about them. That, oh, you know what, thank you very much for speaking for this cause. Why? Because there is, if you guys know, with these hashtags, or how the systems which work online, and they will be able to actually see that you've spoken about them, and this will actually encourage them to speak more, because they will know that you're standing up for them. So thank them, inshallah. So inshallah, with that, I'm happy to take questions and go for it, inshallah.
As Australian youth, what would you say are steps we should take to be pillars of the future ummah?
Well, look, the things that you're doing, getting all these people inside the masjid, and this is where you bring the speakers and you speak about what is important to the youth. We have to empower the youth. We don't have to be living and dictating our youth. We have to listen to them because they're the ones who are actually grown up in this country. We need to know what their challenges are. Generally, people come from overseas, parents, and we don't know the challenges of youth. The school system does not work how it works overseas. Our children are not facing the problems that we used to face overseas. Their problems are very different. We have to listen to them. We have to empower them, and we have to give them the right Islamic education. And this is where you have to come more to these masajids. You have to involve yourself more into these talks, and you have to actually empower, and you have to actually become these speakers, and you have to go out and also, you know, I'm so happy. Like, I see so many of my students this is like nostalgia for me today. As some of the people I've seen after a long time. So I do say massages should be more vibrant. It should be allowed for the youth to actually run programs and to educate at the same time, but also not shying away from what our beliefs are. We should never shy away from that. We should always be steadfast. We should not be cowards. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-jubni. That we should not be cowards. We should not make our children coward. I always say this. You know, my father, it's so amazing. They still live in that bubble. My father just recently told me, stay out of the conflict. That's my father's word. Make dua. You know, what are you going to achieve? I said to my father, I said, you lived it, that life. Your entire life, you stayed out of conflict. Look what's happened to Pakistan. You stayed out of conflict. Look where you guys have got Pakistan to. The entire nation is corrupt. The leaders, we can definitely talk about the leaders. The judiciary is corrupt. The army is corrupt. Do you know what? I tell you this, children. And subhanallah, I don't endorse anyone, but I'll endorse General Ziaul Haq today. I'll endorse him in a way, because one of the things he said, and I want to, why? Because I want to endorse him in that way, the thing that he said. He went to India when he made nuclear power. This is what you call brave leaders. Now, I am saying, I understand you may have something to say about him. We're not saying everyone's perfect. We are not saying he's a perfect individual. He also, we're speaking about Palestinian cause. Let's be just. He was called by Jordan. He was actually the person in there to push the Palestinian refugees away. This is in the history. Pakistan was called by Jordan to free them from the refugees that were coming from West Bank. And General Ziaul Haq was there. And he's got blood of so many people on his hand. But what am I endorsing over here? You know, there was tensions and there was a war that was about to start. And it was a time in the 80s and Pakistan was playing a cricket game in India. And Ziaul Haq was actually, and this is a true story, you can actually look it up. Ziaul Haq said that we are ready for war. And he said, who is going to carry the plane with the nuclear bomb to Israel? And at the same time, he said that we're ready to the war with Afghanistan as well. Do you know, in the entire Muslim land, the most sophisticated army and air force is of Pakistan's. There's no one that actually comes close to them, not even Egypt. When it comes to military system, that's how sophisticated the Pakistani army is. That's the only nuclear power in the world as well. Only nuclear power. Now, when he went there, Rajiv Gandhi was very upset. He said he's not going to see Pakistan. He's ready to go on a war and he's ready to fight. His advisor told him that, you know what, it's not nice. It's the protocol of a prime minister or a president when he comes from the other country that the president or a prime minister has to go receive him. So he went to the Delhi airport to receive him. And Ziaul Haq stood with Rajiv Gandhi for just a few minutes and he shook his hands. He said, you know what? He said, I know you are planning a war on us. He said, you know what? We've also got nuclear bomb. And then he looked into his eyes, and this is a conversation they're having. He said, I am ready to bomb the entire India, and I'm ready to die as well. He said, tomorrow the newspaper will read that Muslims will still live in other parts of the world. But the newspaper will read, there is no Hindu on the face of this earth. This is what he said. And then he laughed and he sat in the bus to go and watch the cricket game. And so, having said that, they were also tyrants, but the leaders were brave. We have to be brave. So this is what it is. So make your children brave so that they're able to stand up for cause, inshallah. Yes? That's a very good question. I have written to MBS. He hasn't replied me yet, so I'm not in a position to answer this question. Look, Arab countries have their own agenda. They've got their own treaties. Now, we've got two countries, they've signed a treaty of no attack, no violence with Israel. One's on this side, it's Jordan, and one's on this side, it's Egypt. Okay, both these countries have signed a treaty, they've got treaties with Israel, and they are bound by that treaty. And also, because of that treaty, they're not even opening the borders. Yes, there are so many stray voices in Egypt. I'm sure there's stray voices in Jordan as well. But they've signed treaties. They can't do anything, and they will not do anything as well. So don't have any hope there. But if you were to really look at a sophisticated army in the West, in the Arab land, it's Egypt, definitely. I would give it to Egypt. They do have a sophisticated army. They do have weaponry as well. Also, some of the Egyptians that might be in your parents as well, they have also done army training, because conscription is mandatory in Egypt. You have to do 2 years of army if you don't have, if you don't have like difficult circumstances, if you're not the only child in the family, there's like a range of things you can get away. But generally, the general population, they do 2 years of training. So I do feel like Egyptians are really well equipped. Like even a layman in the house has done army training. He knows how to fire bullets, or I'm assuming a rocket launcher as well, and the likes of it. So, but again, this is my assumption. I'm yet to talk to some Egyptians about to clarify my assumption. Also, with the other oil-rich countries, they don't want to get into any conflict. They are pushing for peace in other ways. So, and some of them have normalized relationship as well. So this is a difficult one. Or you could just go back to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Bal antum kathir. It will be a lot, but you will be ghusa'aka ghusa' as-sayl. That you be like rubbish. Your weight will be no weight. Yes.
What would you say, like, previously you mentioned, like, parents sometimes tell their kids to stay out of conflict and not be so lenient towards one side. What would you say?
Lenient towards one side.
Yeah, like,
All parents that. We've only got one side.
like
There's no side B over here.
I just mean, like, generally, how do you say, like kids should deal with their parents when they...
Look, Quran is a clear guideline for us. We don't argue with our parents, but we can talk to them in a very collegial way and to tell them, look, it's our responsibility. Sometimes, our parents just tell us to only make dua, and that's it, and that's what we need to do. But understand, tell us we've got rights, we live in this country, we are protected by, the rights and the freedoms that we have, unless we don't take and we don't do anything stupid. Okay, so understand, some people, emotions are really high, they do stupid things. Well, you need to talk to them, and if they are not listening, the management's got my number, give them my number, and I'm happy to speak to your parents as well, inshallah. But, we really need to educate our parents. We really need to tell them, I tell you this, I grew up listening to this chant, and I'm sure you grew up listening to this chant as well, Free Palestine. I am close to 100 years old, and I grew up listening to this chant. So can you imagine how long is this chant going around? So this Palestine is not going to be freed until we all have some part in it. We're not telling you to go to the embassy of Israel and start spitting. We're not saying that. But we're telling you to do the right thing, and that's not something that we tell people as well. We want people to be educated, and you guys are the empowerment, because you speak language flawlessly. Some of our parents are even too scared of having a conversation. Why? Because they think they'll stumble and they will not have the right vocabulary to even argue with someone. And you are the people that speak the language, and you're able to debunk the narratives that these guys have. Educate yourself. You know what? When they bring the 1400 number, educate yourself from 1948. Bring the numbers. Bring those numbers. Tell me, what about these children? What about this one? Bring the Nakba, bring that. Talk about these numbers. Talk about the 17 years of blockade, those numbers. Talk about these numbers. You know, this is the old game. They want to play this game with us, but they don't know. We are now the most powered people. You know, the mobile phone, this is empowered the entire world. They cannot hide it. Well, what is Mark Zuckerberg going to do? Remove your hashtags Palestine? Well, you've got the other guy who also supports the Palestinian, the Israeli cause, which is Mr. X. But again, Mr. X says, I allow freedom of speech. So we've got so many other platforms where you can go and you can speak about these things. Yes, anyone else? Yes.
What are your thoughts on the United Nations rules, and what do you think about the support of, or the supposed support of countries like Russia?
Sorry, what was the second part? I didn't get that.
What do you think of the supposed supporting of Palestine from countries like Russia and Czech?
Okay, well, everyone's got the agenda there. So you need to understand, wherever America stands, Russia's not going to stand there. Okay? So they do have an agenda there. But also, you need to understand, because Russia also has an agenda at the moment that they're playing, and they're taking a land away. So they can come back on that cause, and that's why they're standing up for the rights of the Palestinians. They're trying to take the land away as well. Because understand, Ukraine was the wider land of USSR when they were broken into pieces. So they do have a narrative there. And the funny thing is, I would like to call out someone. It's not that, I'm not telling you brothers get upset. I have praised this person in the past, but I like to call him out. Although it's not my philosophy, but because he's a world leader and he's got the power, that's why I want to call him out. Erdogan. You know, Erdogan has been a baton of the Muslim hope for a very long time. We've been tooting his horn for a very long time. I am yet to see a harsh statement on Israel since this entire conflict started. That's my only question. I'm yet to see a harsh statement. I was told that they have got gas dealings with Israel. I was told, this is Turkey. If you are Turkish, let me go home alive. I'm only saying what I've heard, okay? I've also heard that the Turkish Airlines goes to Tel Aviv as well. And there's other things I've heard. So I'm yet to see a harsh reply from Erdogan. If you do have it, you can prove me wrong. I'm always a person who is very humble, and I can always apologize in front of the camera. Yes. Anyone else? So, sorry, your first thing was United Nations. United Nations is a spineless organization. They just like to talk. And United Nations has no power whatsoever. So they will talk. America listens to United Nations when it's their agenda. America listens to United Nations when it was the Ukrainian war. You know, subhanAllah, and this is so funny, James Cleverly is the foreign minister of UK. James Cleverly went to Israel and he's standing over there. If you look at his I think it's, he said UK government. So the UK part in the government on Twitter is the Ukrainian flag, and the government part, some of that is Israeli flag, and the MENT part, I think it's the UK flag. So, and then when he went to Israel, and he's going over there, he said, my complete support is with Israel, and I woke up to this horror, and I cannot imagine what it happened, and this is the only attack. Subhanallah, they're calling this horrendous, but they forgot what they did to Iraq. They call this horrendous, but they forgot what they did to Syria. And they call this horrendous. And the crimes that they perpetrated. So rest assured, United Nations are only going to give one statement after the other, after the other, after the other. And they're going to do nothing. They will do nothing because they've got no power whatsoever. And they only are the body which is there to talk to people and to... United Nations spoke about the genocide and the ethnic cleansing of Muslims in India. Did anything happen? United Nations spoke about the ethnic cleansing of the Kurdish people. Did anything happen? No, it didn't. United Nations spoke about the ethnic cleansing of Kashmir. Did anything happen? Nothing happened. That's just a talk machine. You know, talk's cheap. What I'm doing right now, I don't have to pay any money. You guys are sitting and listening to me, so that's cheap. Action is expensive. Takes a lot of effort. And that's what we need to do. Yes. Anyone else? Yes.
Why did Israel fought against Palestine in the first place?
Yeah, because they had this ideology that was created in the 1920s, and your father can actually tell you this, the Balfour Agreement. Remember I spoke about the father? The father had another child which was born out of illegitimacy, and the child did not have a house. Because the illegitimate children do not stay in the house, because the wife is not going to be happy because she's got her own children, and now you have to find another place for them. And so they were looking for an orphanage, and the orphanage happened to be Palestine, and that's where they put them over there. And this is where the Zionism started. And the Zionism actually, if you go back to the history, in the Balfour Agreement in the Parliament of UK, the rabbis that were sitting there, they said, we don't want to go to Palestine. We are in peace with those people, and we actually live in peace with them. We don't want to land over there. Do you know why it all happened? The entire history starts with the Ottoman breaking and completely being annihilated after the Second World War. What happened? When the British actually annihilated, the only land that was left with the Ottomans were the Turkish land, which is today. And what happened after that? Another tyrant that was born, Kemal Atatürk. That guy was a tyrant in making. This guy destroyed the generations of Turkey, where they could not speak Arabic, where they could not learn Arabic, where they could actually not even promote this language. That's how much he hated the Arabs. Why did he hate the Arabs? Because the Arabs did not stand up, and they're the ones who did not come to fight to save the Turks, because there was this infighting. This is what's happening today. When you see, when the imams and everyone is trying to come together, the younger people come out and say, oh, this one's a sellout, this one is this. Brothers, this is not the time to call people sellouts. As if you're in Australia, this is the time to come together and to fight the bigger evil. And then when we have done that, after that you can come and bring your dirty laundry, and we can all wash it together. So that was the entire thing that happened. So the UK promised the Arabs to give them the kingdom. That's what they do. They promised us so many things. Subhanallah, the UK, when they left the subcontinent, they promised the Muslims that they will give them a land, and they, subhanallah, can you imagine, your father's a Pakistani, ask him, you've never heard in your life, I'll tell you this for you to understand visually. This is Pakistan, this is India, and this is Pakistan. So in order to go to the other part of Pakistan, you have to fly in a plane for 3 hours. This is what UK gave you. They said, we're looking after you. This is your other Pakistan, which is 3 hours away on a plane, and this is your other Pakistan, and in the middle is India. So they've always done this. This has been their game from day one. Day one since they've come into power, they've done this. They've just, this is what they've done. And also, if you look at the Arabs, where they broke off all the Arabs, this was the entire region that was called Transjordan. This was actually, if you go back to the old map, this was called Transjordan, where everyone was part of it. And so they broke off Palestine, they broke off Lebanon and all these countries. Yes, anyone else? We're done. I've got one more question, yes.
Quickly, like about the ethnic views we talk about, like the non-Zionist views that we randomly watch and that we are against the state of Israel. What is their stance on the Jerusalem in particular? Because obviously Jerusalem is one of the bone of contention between the Muslims and the Jews for a long time. So
I think they're not claiming that. So if you need to go back to the history, they say it's mentioned in the Jewish Bible that they will not have a land which they will own. It's along those lines. So they want to live in harmony and also have their temple which they go to. So they don't want to, and you'd be amazed, before 1948 that war broke out, there were over 200,000-300,000 Jews that were already living there, and they never asked for land or anything. They were living in harmony, they were happy with the Arab rulership over them, and they were living. If you even go back, the Jews have found more solace living with the Arabs. Even when Andalus broke off, they ran to Egypt and they lived under the Muslim kingship in Egypt. So the Jews, there were so many Jews that actually lived in Egypt. So that they generally found more peace living with the Arabs or the Muslims. So it's not a contention of claim. They want that land to worship as we want that land to worship, and that could be worked in harmony. But Islam does not stop anyone, in order to what they believe and they want to worship. And this was a land which is a holy place for them as well. So even Umar ibn al-Khattab, when he came, he did not pray in that church. Why? Because he said, after me, people will come and they will break this church and say this is a masjid. So he also did not do that. All right, inshallah, we're going to break off over here. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His victory and His nusrah to the people of Palestine and to the entire ummah of Muslims. And we also ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the people of Afghanistan who are suffering because of this earthquake that happened, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to also send them aid and to help them in this difficult time. We ask for Allah for everyone, the people of Burma, the people of Rohingya, the people of the Uyghur Muslims, the Palestinians, and the people of Afghanistan, and the people of Kashmir, and the Kurdish people, and everyone around the world that are suffering. We ask Allah to give them peace and to return them back to their lands and to allow them to live a life which everyone is supposed to live. Ameen ya Rabb. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa rahmatika arhamar rahimin.